would you give someone on the older side of the spectrum in terms of advice?
I want to say a joke, like start to make some friends who will take care of you.
Really? Hold
No.
on, where's my phone?
No.
Let me start.
Start to call your kids. Hey, I'm going to need to move in. Hi, I'm Brittney Castro, and this is When Zay Zay Met. And today we're talking about When Zay Zay Met Me.
¿Qué pasa, cómo está mi gente? I am Zay Zay, and welcome to When Zay Zay Met. Today, we're meeting with an entrepreneur, a certified financial planner, a personal finance expert, and all that. She has helped thousands and thousands of people get their money right, and today she's talking with us. Ladies and gentlemen, show your love. This is Brittney Castro. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
It's good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you again. It's been a while. I'm good.
That's wonderful. Man, you look good. I love seeing all the stuff on the wall. Let me take a closer look there.
Flaunt it.
Ooh, that's happening.
It's cool because, I had this office, and this is my home office, and I had it for like years. So when the pandemic hit, I was like very fortunate. I didn't have to adjust my work lifestyle at all, because I was preaching this kind of virtual life for like 8 years, So it's nice. I'm like, well, I'll just leave all the awards up there, all the designations.
Let's get to know a little bit about you, hermanita. Where are you from?
I live in LA now, and I grew up in a little suburb town called Cerritos. So my parents actually still live there in the same hometown. My dad is Mexican. He is second generation. So his family came from Mexico, my great grandma basically was the one. When she was 14 years old, she came over with her husband, the guy who wanted to marry her. Basically, the guy who wanted to marry her said, let's go to America. And they went to Utah, actually, and worked on the railroads, and then eventually made their way over to Los Angeles. So my dad grew up in Los Angeles. And, then he met my mom, which my mom is Irish, French, Canadian. So we have a running joke in the family because, being like half Mexican, my dad is obviously very Mexican looking. And all of us are like darker, especially when we were kids, we're darker. And my mom is green eyes, blonde hair. So everyone thought she was like the nanny. Because she had these Mexican kids, all the time with her, like these 3 kids that looked nothing like her. And she was in heaven. So so my parents are from there, and I grew up in Cerritos, and now I live in like the center of LA, the hub of it all.
The hub of it all. What was it like for you growing up in Cerrito?
So Cerritos is very small, quiet town. Actually, I feel very grateful. I don't know if you've had this, I don't know, but I look at the world today and I think, I'm so grateful I had a childhood that wasn't on social media. We weren't on our iPads. We played outside. We went to school, then came home and played with the neighborhood kids until dinner time. And,
right.
It was a great childhood because we had that, we had that chance to play outside and make up games. And it was a good upbringing. It was suburbia, and I think that was really nice. I feel just grateful to be past this generation of when they're constantly on their social media apps and all of that. But yeah, my childhood was very nice. My parents were middle class. My dad worked. He was a police officer, actually, LAPD officer, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So very traditional household in the sense dad went to work, mom raised the kids. And my mom actually handled a lot of the finances. I think a lot of women are like this, they handle the day-to-day finances for the family. So she was very involved of that. So we never felt I never felt like we were lacking, but it was always understood we were on a budget. And if we want things, you have to do chores or you have to go get a job. And it was never just given to us. So I think I got a lot of my good work ethic and just gratitude for things in life to work for them through my parents who instilled that in us.
That's amazing. That's actually really wonderful. You said you had brothers and sisters?
Yeah. So I have three brothers. And I'm the only girl.
Okay.
So I grew up playing with the boys.
It made you tough?
It made me tough and it made me like girly at the same time. I don't know how to explain it because I was always like the sidekick, like, yeah, that's a great idea, and supporting these crazy guys and their crazy fun ideas. But I just like would giggle and laugh and yeah.
Aw, that's adorable. Did you guys ever find yourself struggling with money like so many of us, Latino households kind of did and do?
Yeah, my parents didn't ever like struggle, I would say, but they were like my dad was like super hard worker, and we always knew this is all we have. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, this is all we have. Like when we go out to restaurants, that was rare, kind of not rare, but like we wouldn't go out to eat a lot, and if we did, we couldn't. We'd order water. You couldn't get like an there's no like appetizer or dessert or soda. It was like you get your meal, you eat your full meal, and that was a big deal,
Yeah.
to go out to dinner. So I don't feel like they ever like instilled a struggle, but it was always known this is how much we have, and we're not made of money. And my dad obviously worked his butt off to make sure we had food on the table, provided for our family. And that was very important to him. And he is a very good provider in that sense. And I think my mom was just really good at taking, like, I think it's pretty incredible what they were able to do with. So, I look at it like, how did you raise a family of, 5 off of one salary? Like, I think it's incredible, and save and be able to retire and put us in school, and it's pretty remarkable.
It really, my next question is obviously going to be who taught you the value of money first. But in hearing you say that, I can see that right from the beginning, you were already being set up with what I think today is probably the number one thing that so much of us don't get growing up, which is we're not living outside of our means. This is what we have. Nope, you can't get an extra soda, or no, you can't get one, because we don't have that, right? And I'm not going to put, an extra 87 cents on a credit card and pay interest on that, right? It's like, this is what we're doing, this is what we have, and this is what we can do. And so I personally feel as though that is a lesson so many of us, myself included, growing up, didn't really get. You always wanted to have what your friends have, or be able to do what your friends can do. And not every family is built the same, So I hats off to your parents for teaching you that, like, right away.
Yeah, and it's, you don't really appreciate it until you're older in life and you start working, and life throws you all these challenges, and you're like, what the heck? I mean, and like living even myself in a big city, I'm like, oh my God, life is so expensive. But you're right, like they didn't use credit cards to pay for their life, So, and my dad, I think this is very like Latino mindset, was like so against credit. Obviously they had a mortgage on the house, but he knew how to use credit to build a credit score, but he never carried balances. And so he preached that to us, like, don't carry balance on your credit card. And like, having that debt was never an option. And so I think that's just, like you said, that living within the means principle was so part of our upbringing that, like, I kind of rebelled against it when I started working, making my own money. I was like, oh, I want to buy things, and like be able to spend a little more freely. And
for sure,
there's that part of it too, like an abundance mindset that needs to come in, which I needed to learn personally. But now, like, kind of balancing it with, no, like, don't waste money. Like, every dollar is valuable, and be very mindful about how you're spending your money, and make sure it's on things, like you said, don't just charge 87 cents on your credit card,
Right. What do you think is the best piece of financial advice you ever received personally that changed you, and who'd you get it from?
One of my, she's like my spiritual mentor, teacher, basically, she said, always keep your eye on the money. Because when I started my business about 8, 9 years ago, I was like I'm like stressed about money, but when you have a business, it's hard, man. And you get knocked down all the time. And you're like, I don't know. And I would just like, oh my God, the taxes would come, then the cash flow, and then paying people. And I remember saying, something related to money stress. And she said, yeah, but it's important that no matter how much you have or don't have, you always keep your eye on the money, because that is a smart businesswoman. That's just being on top of your finances. And it took me a while to really understand what she meant. And what it means to me is no matter how much money you acquire, how many people help you manage the money, or if you're in a relationship and you're working together as partners, you still have to be involved. Like, it is your money, and you always have to keep your eye on it, because no one can take, it's like your health, right? No one can do it for you. You have to be involved. So even if you're in a relationship and you're both planning together, wonderful. But that doesn't give you an excuse to just check out and avoid it.
Yeah.
Or even if you have a financial planner or a good CPA and they're helping you manage everything, it doesn't give you the excuse to be like, oh, they're handling it, I don't know what's going on. You have to know what's going on. And so that was really, I think it changed my mindset, because then I realized, okay, got it. I always have to be like looking at my books and, reviewing the work of my CPA. And it just took a lot of, I don't know, I was never a victim with my money, but it took a lot of that like struggle, like, oh, I have to do more and more, with the money. It was like, nope, this is important to me, so I'm going to do it no matter what. I'll find time to make it happen for my life. Even if it means a little bit more time or discipline, I'll always be involved.
It's interesting because this must have been a while ago, because I remember when I first met you, one of the biggest pieces of advice that I remember from having my conversation with you was to have a date night with your books, right? Which is something that you teach people. And you told me way back then, you're like, look, man, don't be afraid to look at your balance. Don't be afraid to go in your bank statement and take a look at everything that you spent, and don't be afraid to look at the money. And so many of us just like, ooh, out of sight, out of mind. I'm just going to keep dumping money in there and spending, and whatever happens, happens, because we feel as though there's so much stress waiting for us at the end of that, that pin before we go in and start taking a look. We get nervous about that. And that's kind of like the out of sight, out of mind mentality that so many of us embrace when it comes to our finances, because we equate stress to that, right? But remembering what you said and thinking about it, it's almost like facing your fears head on, right? Just get in there. And then once you understand it, you're not afraid of it anymore, right?
And by the way, I still do money dates. It's actually in my calendar today, because it's the end of the month, and I'm going to look at all my finances and just review everything and prepare for the next month. But yeah, it is so true. And I think once you do it, like you said, it kind of removes the fear, because then it becomes part of your lifestyle. And when you don't do it, it's really weird. It's a practice. It's a discipline to get in that. It might not be natural in the beginning. It's just like a health or workout regimen. You might have to like do a little bit more force in the beginning to get yourself there.
Yeah.
But it is so important. And then it kind of eases the burden, because I think that avoidance, anytime we do avoidance behavior or get in our mind about things or like push things away, it creates another level of anxiety or stress. And sometimes, most of the time, it's not always as bad as we make it out to be. And even if there is a problem, there's always a solution, but you have to be involved to be able to see what solutions are needed, or what opportunities, or what steps do I need to take to make this better.
That's true.
Right. So I think I love that you do the money dates, because I think it's just, it's like a simple practice, yet it's so powerful, and you're going to have to do it for the rest of your life. So the sooner people just start to like embrace it, the better. Yeah.
So true. Let's talk a little bit about the state of, the world to an extent, right? Financially speaking. There seems to be a bit of a shift between, with workers, especially here in the U.S., who have decided that they don't want to accept jobs that they feel would actually take advantage of them and their time, or jobs in general that they feel don't pay a living wage. So they feel like, well, we don't want to be involved with that. What are your thoughts about that specific paradigm right now?
It's interesting because I am an entrepreneur, so I've always been in the mindset to go out and create my work and create my income and make that work environment something I want it to be. So I'm a big believer in this ability to create what you want for yourself, but there is a reality and expectation of what that means. So if people are saying turning down work or turning down income because whatever, right? It's not a work environment or it's not the work they want to do. I mean, first and foremost, it's work. So even if you love your job or passionate about your business, there's still work. Like we still have to show up every day and work. So sometimes you may not want to, but there's a reality. So I think this shift is good, but it needs to get like also a dose of reality of like, sometimes you just got to do the work and like get the money going and line up the job or line up the paycheck as you figure something else out, or find ways to make whatever this work environment that you might not like better for you. What's the issue? Because whether you go here or there, there's always going to be an issue, right? There's always stuff you got to deal with. So it's picking what kind of stuff you want to deal with, but don't get into this illusion that, oh, over there it's just like perfect, or the grass is greener if you have a business and you have freedom over your schedule. It's like, yeah, you have freedom over your schedule, but there's also a lot more responsibility that comes with it. So I just like to make things real, I have a business. I love the work I do, but I still have to show up to work. It's not like I could just sit around all day, and I put in a lot of time, like I hustled for many years and I did a lot of work I didn't necessarily like doing to get to a level where I am now, which is I get to do a majority of the work I love and enjoy and get paid well for it. Yeah. But that didn't come overnight, came with, I've been working since I'm 16, like 20 years of work, so I think there's just this, I don't want to say it's entitled, but there's a little bit sometimes of an entitled mentality nowadays, that, and maybe it's illusion of social media. People think they can just become overnight sensations and stars and make millions of dollars. But to me, I've never seen that. And I'm in the financial world. I've never seen an overnight. You know what I mean? It's like years of work, and then 100%. It's the overnight that you hear about.
Right.
Even with like stock traders, everybody, right? But it's good to teach people how to be more independent, more entrepreneur mindset, go out and seek the work, seek the income they want and need, because there is a reality. People need money, and they might not be able to get the money they need just from one job, or so they might have to work a few different gigs or find other solutions creatively to make an income. I mean, I understand, especially with inflation, we're all in the same boat. Like, how are we making our living, and how are we going to continue to make a living for ourselves? So that is good to teach entrepreneur mindset, but then also just balance it with the reality.
What would you suggest to people who let's say they don't care about being entrepreneurs, so to speak, but it's really difficult for them to find essentially what people are calling a living wage, right? For instance, I'm reading that minimum wage can no longer support rent in anywhere in this country, period. Like it just happened a few months back where the threshold was crossed, where you can't afford any rent anywhere if you make a minimum wage job. Do you have any advice for people who are in those situations where minimum wage seems to be our only hope, or at least our only options right now? What would you suggest to people to start to dig themselves out of these situations?
Well, first I just want to say it's not easy, and I have a lot of compassion and heart for the situation. But I think there is that the get back in the driver's seat kind of mentality. Like, don't ever fall victim to things, even if it's hard, because when you're a victim, you can't see opportunities. So I would say in this situation, if you find you're not making enough money to support your living, which, by the way, I live in LA and it's expensive to live here. And even me, I'm like, oh my God, the amount of money it takes to live in a big city.
Right.
And I'm a professional, like it's just a lot. So everybody has a version of it. And I would just say, what can you do to increase your skills or increase your value? So maybe you got to work, study on your own time. Maybe there's another way to increase, or another skill you can learn to make money, or learn sales. Like, there's always the internet, and I think the internet can teach us a lot of things. It's just your choice as to what you're going to do. So do you need to educate yourself? Do you need to go back to school? Do you need to take some classes online to get a new skill to then go ask for more money at your job? Like, what is it going to be? Because you're going to have to kind of do that constantly in your lifetime. We all have to reinvent ourselves over and over again. So I just always like to encourage people. That's actually exciting, right? Like, that can be fun. It might take a lot of work, but it's fun to learn something new. It's fun to say, yeah, how can I change my situation? How can I make this better for myself? What can I do? And just take it day by day, because that's really all we have anyway.
There it is.
And I just always like to relate, even people who make money are maybe like considered high income earners constantly are thinking like this too. So it's not just low income, or, I know there's a wage gap, but it's both. You know what I mean? Everybody has their version of it.
What do you think is the biggest financial issue in lower income families, or in immigrant families, that you think doesn't get talked about enough?
Probably building assets. And I mean, there's a few things. So a lot of immigrants, they're coming here and learning how to understand the banking system, which is not the same as many other countries, right? We leverage debt here, which is different from a lot of countries. Learning that you can't just keep your money in a savings account. You got to acquire assets, so a home, investing in the stock market. So that, to me, is like the biggest thing missing, is teaching people how to build assets for themselves. And sometimes that means leveraging debt, like you get a mortgage to buy an asset, which is a house, and helping people get in that position to do that, right? And so with investing, that's the only way you're going to build wealth and get out of that poverty level of just barely making it. Because if we all know, if we keep our money in savings, we're not even keeping up with inflation right now. And so helping people understand this idea of getting assets that can provide an income stream later is so important. And it's like just one of those things, like we all have to constantly learn it, relearn it. But I think for like anybody coming, or immigrant, or maybe just like getting started, that is a bigger, different mindset change that you have to be willing to say, okay, here's how things are done here,
So what do you think, what would you tell someone who doesn't know anything about that? Not doesn't know anything, but what would you tell somebody who feels like that's out of their reach? I don't, how am I going to get assets? I have a job, I'm paying my rent, I'm paying my utilities, I'm paying for food. How do I get assets? What would you tell somebody is a good first step to that goal?
One, start educating yourself. Like, do time every week in your schedule where you're learning about money, finances, assets. There's YouTube videos for free, my YouTube videos, social media. Find credible financial professionals who are teaching this stuff. That's number one. Just start learning every week. Number two, day by day, right? So you are obviously thinking, oh my God, how am I going to buy $1 million house? And that's like a huge goal. But just start learning day by day. What do you need to do? Oh, maybe you need to look at your budget and start to increase your income, so you have a little bit more money to start saving for this goal. That's a great first step. That's it. you know, because it's literally step by step, day by day. And the more you kind of get into that mindset and you're educating yourself along the way, then these goals don't, then they eventually happen. Sometimes it takes 10 years, 5 years, maybe next year, depending on the size of the goal. But if we just think about a home, like even I think about that, I'm like, it's so unrealistic. How am I going to buy a house in LA? It's $4 million here, you know?
Gosh, my gosh.
You know, or like I could buy a condo for $1.5 million. Wow. And then I have HOA. Like that to me seems so, but then I think, okay, well, let me just like start getting my S corp finances ready. I'm going to talk to my CPA. What kind of income do I need to show? That's the first step. Okay. That's step number one, right? You know, so it's piece by piece, step by step. And I think when we do that in life, especially, I mean, all of us have been through a lot, whether it's been hard or good these past few years. Like if we have, I mean, it's like start, stop, you know, and the stuff we've had to kind of persevere through. That's the same with our money. So just day by day, what can you do right now? What are you doing to educate, improve your financial situation? Feel good about that. Because I think sometimes we think like we're not doing enough, and that kind of mentality is like always with us, when maybe you really are doing the best you can. And if you constantly do something every day, every week, it's amazing. Celebrate it.
Yeah. You know, that's interesting because ever since I first met you, it seems like that's the golden thread that's through all of it, right? And I remember patience, education, learn, right? If you learn something about, and don't be afraid. So, I mean, even the date nights is really about learning. What is your current situation, right? What are you doing right now? You learn where you are so that you know the steps that you need to take to get where you need to be. And it may take, like you just said, 10 years. It may take 20 years. You may not be able to buy that house for 30 years. But as long as you learn and make those steps one by one, you'll get there.
You will. And, you know, I like to also remind people there's no such thing as like, I get this question a lot. Brittany, I'm 25 or I'm 35. Where should I be by now? And I'm like, I have no idea. Where should you be? Because like, I want to know too.
I don't know. How many Yeezys you got?
You know? But with finances and stuff, we always want to measure ourselves against like other people our age. It's just common in society, right? It's this like comparison. Oh, I see that and I should have that too. Or I'm 35 and they're 35 and they have a house, but I don't have a house. I feel behind. But to me, it's just a recipe for suffering, and it never works for me. I'll tell you that. So instead, just say, okay, where am I now? Where was I this time last year? Have I grown? You know, so with our money, we can look at our net worth statement, which is your assets and your liabilities. And assets minus liabilities is your net worth. So if you look at it once a year and say, am I growing my net worth? Okay, I'm growing some assets, paying down some debts. Good. I'm moving in the right direction. That's great. I'm working. I'm working toward my goals that are for me. I don't care what they're doing. Doesn't matter. They could be 35, married with kids, $1 million, and then divorced in a month from now with $0. You know what I mean? So it's this illusion of, you know, we're a certain age, we should have a certain amount. It doesn't matter. Just what matters for you. What are you wanting to do in your life, and what is it going to take, and feel good about your progress year after year.
What do you think is the biggest misconception that Latinos have about money?
I don't know, for like misconception, I would go back to that debt, leveraging debt. I think Latinos have a hard time leveraging, a lot of them. Like I just relate to my dad, who's, you know, Mexican, and he hates debt. I don't want debt. I'm like, but dad, that's how you leverage. That's how you get assets. You know, that's how it's done here. You had a debt to get a house, so you get another debt to get another house, and that's how you keep building. But I think teaching that, with a lot of Latin cultures don't do that in the country. They don't leverage debt. You have to pay for a house with cash or something, you know. So it goes back to, I think, just building assets and helping people understand that.
Got it. What do you let's talk a little bit about, if you don't mind. Let's talk a little bit about blockchain financing,
Mhm.
right? Or blockchain financials. NFTs, right? Very volatile, incredibly volatile. It feels like 25 minutes ago, it was worth $1 billion. And right now it's worth about, $127.
Yep.
What do you think about that whole world?
So I've studied a lot about it the last few years. Crypto, blockchain, NFTs. I actually got a designation, a certified digital asset advisor designation. So I went to like what I preach, I do myself. I went to learn, get more education from experts. I think we can't ignore it, but you have to be in the right mindset to start to add this into your financial mix. So if you're struggling to pay your bills, you don't have a cushion, just money in the bank, you have some credit card debt, you're barely investing in your own 401k or retirement fund, you should not be looking at, like putting all your money in crypto over here because you need to have a foundation, right? But if you have a foundation, you're able to pay your bills, you have some money in the bank, you have your, basic retirement stock portfolio going, then I would say it makes sense to start maybe adding a little crypto positions. NFTs, I don't know enough about it, to be honest. But like crypto, I think I went to the Bitcoin conference in Miami a few months ago. Every major financial firm's investing in Bitcoin and like the major ones, right? Crypto. It's not like, as it was maybe 5 years ago or even 2 years ago. It's like more mainstream now. So to start to learn about it is important because it's just another category of investing that you can add into your portfolio if it makes sense. But you have to understand the volatility. Yeah. What to expect, only invest long-term money that you don't need in the short term. If you need this money to pay rent next month, you should not be putting it in any investment, let alone an NFT, the stock market, none of that, right? So you still apply the same principles, but it might make sense. And then if you learn more and you maybe believe in more, you might decide to put more of your money in it. But start there because blockchain too is not just for financial. It's going to, there's the potential of the blockchain, infrastructure in general to change healthcare, right? It's beyond just finances. So that's why I say it's important to learn because this could be like the next stage of our evolution of how many industries are ran.
It's really interesting to hear you talk about it too, because it feels as though it's the same kind of advice that people give about gambling. Right? Mm-hmm. Never gamble unless you're good, right? Unless your rent is paid, all this stuff is you got food on the table, the rent is paid. You don't need this money. Only gamble what you can afford to lose, essentially, right? That seems to be the same advice that you're giving right now. Is that across all investing?
Yeah, of course. It's totally. But I don't want people to think like investing is also like gambling because there are smart ways to invest. For example, if you do research and you're investing in a home in Los Angeles, to me, that's a smart investment. A little different than just gambling and putting 10 grand on red. Or I don't even know. I don't gamble. Okay. So a little different, right?
Of course you don't gamble. Nobody puts 10 grand on red. No, I'm joking.
I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm like, bingo. No, I don't know.
I was just playing.
Yeah.
I just put 10 grand on red earlier and I'm terrible at it. So
it's like, just understand the risk, right? But every investment has different level of risk. So you definitely never want to put money in. So the common thing to say is never put any money you need and are like going to be devastated about losing completely into any investment, right? But the reality that sometimes, like if you're investing, for example, in the S&P 500 index, like the reality that would go completely zero is like, I don't want to say unlikely or never going to happen, but it's not like all or nothing. Do you know what I mean? It's just a volatility of that particular investment that you have to be willing to understand and sign up for. But it's not like all or nothing. Like, I might hit it or I might not. No, it's like, well, no, if you invest in this investment, it'll pay off over time, but there's going to be some volatility.
your advice about educating yourself, with some education, you can manage the risk versus,
Exactly.
you know, versus going to Vegas and putting 10,000 on red. You can't manage that risk no matter how much you know, right? It's just, if it lands, it lands. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Which is such a good thing to know about yourself. And I think part of doing those money dates that we talked about is you start to learn about your own behaviors with money, what your risk appetite is with certain things. Some person might be willing to do that, whereas another person's like, no, I'd rather not and go live my life and not have to worry about it or think about it.
Right.
So we're
risk appetite. That's interesting. I like that term.
It's a risk appetite. Some people are willing to take more risk in relationships. Some people are more willing to take risks in money. Some people are, you know, it's different. So once you that's why I say come back to you and start to learn more about you. Like, what are you willing to risk? Could change. It doesn't need to be like forever, but just always come back to you. Like, is this going to cause you to not sleep at night? Because if so, maybe there's something to look at, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's something I want to ask you about investment opportunities for new investors. What do you think are some good investment opportunities for beginner investors, like Roth IRAs, or I mean, there's so many things that people don't know about, and I'm gonna, you know, if I'm spitting out anything, please leave a comment below if you have any questions on what any of this stuff is. But what would you advise, let's say, somebody who's brand new to the game and wants to start investing for their future?
I like what you just said. Like, look at a retirement account first. A Roth IRA is one version of a retirement account. So some people have a 401k if you have a job. If you're like self-employed, maybe you do your own, like they call it like solo 401k, or you could do a Roth IRA. So that's just the account. And then you could choose to invest the money in the stock market within that account. So usually starting with something really diversified, like I threw out the S&P 500 index earlier because that's just like the 500 largest companies in America. So you get a little bit of all of them if you invest in the index. So you're like diversified right away. That's a good place to start. And then you might, you know, do more research and find, okay, maybe I'm going to add a little bit more to my portfolio mix. But also start, if you can, add a little bit every month, and you set that up so it's an automatic contribution. So the beautiful part about investing nowadays is we have technology that made it super easy to put $50 a month into the S&P 500 index. Before, we didn't have that. We couldn't do that. It was called fractional investing. We couldn't do that. Now we can. So it's just like another bill, and you don't miss that $50, but it comes out automatically, and it's getting invested into something that has a potential to grow more than your savings account. That's the best thing you can do, because if you set things up automatic and just let it go, then over time you look at your statement and you're like, wow, I've been doing this for a year. I have $600 in here, and it grew $100, and now it's $700. Like, great. Right? You keep doing that over the years. That's how we build wealth. I
like that. Now, what kind of advice would you give to someone, let's say on the older side of the spectrum? Let's say they're closer to 50 than they are to 40 now, right? And they really don't have much in terms of retirement money coming at 65. And some people are like that, right? Especially in neighborhoods that I come from. A lot of people are like that. They don't have, you know, they're just going to live on their Social Security check and, you know, whatever kind of hustle and never stop working, right? So what would you give someone on the older side of the spectrum in terms of advice?
I want to say a joke. Like, start to make some friends who will take care of you.
Oh, really? Uh-oh. No. Hold on. Where's my phone? No, let me stop.
Start to call your kids. Hey. I'm going to need to move in. You know, look, the whole idea is don't panic. Do what you can. If you're closer to retirement, quote unquote, retirement age, you know, look at what kind of income streams are going to have. Is it Social Security? Are you going to be getting some from working? how much are your expenses, and if you can still save into your retirement accounts, keep doing that. And if you could save even more into your retirement accounts, I mean, the more you can add into those retirement accounts to build a nest egg that you could eventually take money from, that's the whole idea, right? So the closer you get, you obviously, if you haven't started, you're going to have to add more. But then don't also panic, because I think anytime people panic, it's like, oh, I'm not going to do it because it's like, it's impossible now, right?
Yeah.
I can't do it. I'm just going to work forever. Well, don't do that either, but find some sort of balance or middle ground of maybe you can increase your retirement contributions. Maybe you have start to do some planning, like what does the retirement scenario look like? What's the gap? How are you going to like fill the gap? And whether you have the nest egg or not have the nest egg, we all have to do that kind of planning and look at the numbers. That's why, I said the money date lasts forever, because you get married, you have kids, you move, you get divorced, you have another kid, you retire, then you are still in retirement. Like, it never ends, the planning. So you just constantly have to look at the numbers. What can I do now to make this work better?
So there is hope, though. There's always a solution,
hope.
as you said. Yeah.
There's always hope, and I just think it's a matter of looking for the opportunities and the solutions and not falling victim, no matter how bad it seems, because victim mentality just keeps you stuck, and you can't move when you're stuck. And I'll tell you, just from 15 years of working with people and seeing their finances, no one has it figured out. So everybody is a work in progress, even if they have a lot of money. People don't realize when you have more money, there's more work, because you got to manage more money.
Yeah.
The song, more money, more problems. It's legit, right? So it's never like, oh, one day you're good and you just sit back in a rocking chair for the rest of your life. Like, that is not real. So I always like to kind of remind people, look, I've seen people in every stage, negatives to positive, all the money they could ever need. There's always something. So, and everybody is a work in progress. So you're not alone. There's always hope, and you're not alone.
Especially with people like you. Brittany, you have so many things that you're working on right now. Just give me a few things. What are you working on? What are you doing? What is the world of Brittney Castro like right now?
Yes, thanks. So 2 things. I am basically a financial educator. So I do a lot of brand partnerships and speaking to educate people about money. I take all the years of experience working with clients as a certified financial planner and work on video campaigns, podcasts, as a spokesperson for brands. And then I also just started to teach other financial advisors how to market themselves and leverage videos to get more clients, to get more speaking, because that's what I did for so many years. And I sold that part of my company to focus now on the speaking and brand partnerships. But I also want to teach good financial planners what I did, because unfortunately there's a lot of good financial planners out there who are horrible at marketing. So I want to teach them how to get out there so they can become a resource for the people, because obviously we all need help, and it's just finding the right person to help guide you. So those are the 2 things.
For sure.
And if you come to BrittneyCastro.com, you'll see all of it.
All of it. What would you tell someone who says, I can't afford a financial planner? I mean, I could barely afford to keep, food on the table, or I could barely afford this rent right now. This inflation is crazy. This gas prices are bananas. So I can't really afford that. Or somebody who maybe feels as though it's out of their reach. What would you tell them?
Still go, because look, there's free calls. They do consult calls for free. So you can still tell them what you're working on, see what advice they have. Someone like me, I have free resources all over my website. So even if you can't necessarily, I have a team I refer to for financial planning. Even if you can't do that, you can watch all my videos for free about financial planning. And there's financial planners who work on an hourly basis. So maybe you just pay them for 1 hour, 2 hours of their time, keeps the cost down. But those 2 hours can be life-changing. If they give you something that maybe you wouldn't have seen or done on your own, or read in a book or watched on a video, it could change the trajectory of your financial life. So don't discredit a few hours of professional help either, and find a way.
Find a way. and find a way. Are you still seeing clients personally?
I am not. I sold it in 2020 after 15 years.
Oh my
I have
goodness.
an amazing team though who does all of it. And if you go to BrittneyCastro.com, you can still get one of those consult calls with them for free, 30 minutes, learn about the financial planning with my team. And we do fee-only planning, which is good. So there's no minimums. You don't need to make a certain income or have a certain amount of assets. It's literally if you can pay the fee for the year or for the hour, we can probably help you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, it's good to know, even though you've already made strides to move on, you're still involved in, you still have a team with you that's helping the community. And that's definitely appreciated because, girl, your knowledge is not something that we need to not be able to avail ourselves of. You got it all.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much.
And I appreciate you. And I thank you so much for being with us today. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Zay Zay. Thanks for having me. It's nice to see you after a few years. And I love all the work you're doing. It's really great. So keep on doing it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you definitely wanted to?
Nope. But people can follow me on Instagram, Brittney Castro.
At Brittney Castro, y'all. I follow. You need to, too. Mwah. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for watching When Zay Zay Met. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to be notified when we upload more conversations with celebrities and other interesting people. Now, if you'd like to see your favorite celebrity on the show, it's simple. Just tell us who that is by leaving us a comment down below. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we'll see you on the next one. Hasta la próxima. Lo quiero del corazón.